All right, so if you're like me, you either just bought a set of Fortunato coilovers and you're super excited for them to show up, so you're starting to watch videos and look at all the stuff that goes along with buying a new set of coilovers, or you're looking at getting a new car and shopping around for parts because that's way more fun than shopping around for a new car. Either way, you've landed here at MartinWorks, and today we have a brand new set of Fortunato 500 series coilovers that we're gonna be taking an unboxing so you can get a good look at them and understand what to expect when you buy a new set of coilovers. So in this box, we have a set of Fortunato 500 series coilovers, and these are for a Honda S2000. So we're gonna take a look at these, we're gonna dissect them a little bit, and we're gonna dive in what you should expect when you get a brand new set of coilovers and you're looking to throw them on your car. Because there are some things that you should know before just throwing them in your car, and every brand is a little bit different, but Fortunato is one of I would say one of the best brands out there because they are hand built. They are hashtag built for me, hashtag built for you. And you get a nice little package that says who built them and when they were built, which is kind of neat. All right, so the first thing you see when you open the box is this bag, and it's got a couple of cool things in it. Number one being the certificate of assembly. So like I mentioned before, this is gonna show who built your coilovers, when they were built, what the spring rates are, the valving profile, pretty much everything you would ever need to know about your coilovers. There's also a little diagram in here, force versus absolute velocity. This is interesting. This is like getting homework. This is wild. I've never seen this included with a set of coilovers before. Along with that, you have your tools like your spanner wrenches and your Allen wrenches, because Fortunato's do use both. They do use spanner wrenches for the locking collars, but they also do lock down even more securely with an Allen key, which is really nice. So you're making sure that once you set them to where they are not moving. So to my surprise, these are not 500 series. They are actually 510 series, which is like the next step up from the 500s, and you can tell immediately because of the blue locking collars here. So as soon as we open this up, I realized that Alex lied to me, and he's bulling out with the 510 series. So the difference between the 500 and the 510 is that Fortunato, if they recommend if you're doing something for like your car that you drive on the street a lot, but you take it to the track sometimes, you want that performance, the 500 series is gonna be for you. If you are tracking your car quite a bit, like more than driving it on the street, the 510 is gonna be something that you're gonna wanna look into. It's just a little more customizable. You get a few more features on it, but the good news is if you do buy the 500 series, you wanna get started into a set of Fortunato coilovers, a set of custom built coilovers, you can later upgrade to the 510 series. You can send them in, they can be rebuilt, and they can also be upgraded. All right, so here we have all of our Fortunato coilovers laid out. They look absolutely gorgeous. Some about the colors that they use on these things are just absolutely pop. I know that they're suspension pieces, they're gonna be tucked up inside of the car, but they look so freaking good. So like I said before, these are the 510 series, and when you unbox them, this is everything that you can expect to get. Your 4 coilovers, your spanner wrenches, your Allen wrenches, and then your certificates here. Now, one thing that you'll probably notice right away is that these things are gonna be pretty loosey-goosey. You're not gonna just be able to throw these in the car right away. You're gonna have to set them up just a little bit, but the good news is Fortunato gives you all the tools that you need to do that, and they give you the insight in what you need to do. So setting these things up, you're gonna use some pretty simple tools that are included. Like I said, the spanner wrenches and your Allen keys. So your spanner wrenches are gonna be used for your collars, the blue collars here. Simply, you're just gonna loop that around there, and you're gonna be able to turn them with the wrench. It's gonna be a lot easier than turning it by hand, and trust me, these things can get pretty sharp because they are CNC'd, they are very precise, and you can cut your hand on them, so make sure you use a spanner wrench, and you can move them, you can tighten them down to where you need, and then with Fortunato, with the Allen keys as well, you see that these collars do have a hex bolt in here on each of the collars. Then once you get them into position, you can lock that down. These things are not moving. Some other coilovers will actually have another locking collar in here to lock basically everything together. You kind of use it like a jam nut. using the hex bolts here, you don't have to use as many collars. You just tighten them down, they're not moving anywhere. So the two things you're gonna want to adjust here are going to be your preload and your ride height. Now these are two completely separate things, and make sure you don't get them confused, because I see a lot of times people will start cranking down this top lock collar, which is gonna compress this spring. That's your preload. If you try to adjust that for ride height, you're gonna start messing with all of the attributes of the coilover. The ride is gonna feel really off because you're compressing that spring. Your lower body is where you're gonna adjust your ride height with. So the first thing you wanna do is adjust your preload. That's gonna be adjusted with your top locking collar here. You're gonna use your spanner wrench and you're gonna use your Allen wrench, and you're going to compress this spring to the recommended amount. Now, Fortuna Auto, I believe, does have a chart that you can punch in your year, make, model, and they give you the recommended starting preload for your specific car. So usually it's measured in amount of inches, usually like 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch of preload to basically adjust this from where it's currently sitting. So as you can see on this front coilover right here, that the spring is actually like really loose in here. Now that's not a bad product or anything, the preload just isn't set. So we're gonna crank up this locking collar here, it's gonna be the top one, and basically we're just gonna get that so it's like hand tight until you can't really move it anymore, until you need the spanner wrench. And as you can see, by tightening that starts firming up that spring. It's not gonna be moving around. So when a lot of people just leave preload as is, or maybe it's not even set, you can get clunking noises, you can get screeching noises when you turn, because the spring is actually turning with the coilover, because there's no pressure on the spring itself. So setting the preload is very important here, and you're gonna wanna make sure that you do that. So after you adjust your preload, the second thing you're gonna wanna do is adjust your ride height, which is like one of the main things about getting coilovers. And as you can see, with these 4 coilovers, each one is set pretty much to a different ride height right now. So if you were to throw these in the car, your car would be sitting all sorts of kittywampus. So you're gonna wanna make sure that before you throw them in the car, just set them to an even ride height. So you can do that by going through and taking your fronts here and making sure that the distance between the bottom of the top locking collar and the top of the bottom locking collar are the same on both. Just adjust them, tighten them down so they're the same distance. You can go ahead and change your ride height later once it's on the car. At least this will get you at a level ride height as you throw them in. So we're gonna take a trip to the top of the coilover here and talk about this for a second. So since these are for a Honda S2000, the way that suspension geometry is set up, they don't allow for camber plates on the car because it actually wouldn't do anything with the car. So that's why you'll see these coilovers without camber plates. However, if your application in your car does allow for that, they will come with adjustable camber plates. As well as that, we also have our damping adjustment here, as you can see with the little knob. Now these coilovers have 24 clicks of adjustability for the damping. So usually, you know, if you're going to be like heavily tracking this car, or if it's like really slammed, you're gonna want it's set to a more stiffer setting. So you want to either go all the way or almost all the way to the hard setting. Now, typically what I do is, because I like to feel it out, I go to about 12 clicks or so, which is right about in the middle, and you can adjust it from there. They're really easy to get at for the most part, and it's really simple to adjust. So addressing the elephant in the room here, obviously Fortuna Auto is going to land you more on the more expensive side of a coilover setup, especially when you get into something like the 510 series. Now you're probably wondering, you know, what is the point in spending more in your coilovers or your suspension compared when you can go get a set of coilovers like these Max Peating rods for like $400? Well, I mean, when you take a first look at these, they look, and for the most part, besides like the colors and things like that, pretty similar. You got your mounting plate, you got your lower body, you got your locking collars, your spring. I mean, it's a shock and a spring. How much different can they be? Well, from the outside, that's where, you know, you get a little bit lost, because from the outside, yes, they look similar, but the insides are completely different. With Fortuna Auto, they have spent a long time. I mean, they are on their 8th generation of making these coilovers, meaning that they're improving something every generation. One thing that sets Fortuna Auto apart from a lot of other coilovers is their valving. So not only can you order custom valving with something like the 510 series, but the damper itself, it's a high flow, digressive damper, and it makes the car feel absolutely incredibly good. The internals on these coilovers are put through an extensive R&D process, an extensive amount of testing to make sure that you are getting a high quality product for your vehicle. So yes, absolutely, you could go buy a cheap set of coilovers and it might get you by. They might last a little bit, they might perform okay, and I wish I could tell you how they work, because I actually bought these for my 240SX and I literally couldn't even install them on the car because the fitment was so terrible. Like, this space in here was so pinched. You can actually see how it's kind of closed together because the quality control is just, I couldn't even fit it on my car. I couldn't even put them on the car to test them because that's what we were gonna do, and honestly, it just wasn't worth the trouble at that point. And that's the kind of differences that you can expect with a quality set of coilovers versus a cheap set of coilovers. So we specifically chose Fortune Auto for this video because we genuinely just really like Fortune Auto. We have had such good luck in the past personally with this brand, and going through them, they are such a good example of what you can get with a quality coilover system. Dakota's run them in the past. I'm currently running them on the 240 and Alex has them on the S2000. And honestly, I have nothing bad to say about them whatsoever. So we truly believe in this brand, and that's what we want to do. We want to talk about brands that we truly have experience with and truly have faith in as a good brand for you when you go and buy them and put them on your car. So if you made it through this video, first of all, thank you. And then second of all, if you have any questions on Fortune Auto or suspension or coilovers or anything in general, make sure to comment down below or just shoot us a DM. We're answering all the DMs to make sure that you guys are getting the right parts for your cars. And again, if you're on stock suspension or if you're looking to upgrade your setup, mod your car over at MartinWorks.